It says, "Hi Bruce, hope all is well. I bought and finished the learning one of your courses this afternoon. I've fallen in love with your great works." Man, thanks a lot. I'm getting so much positivity. It's really cool when I get this kind of feedback. I really enjoy it. I really like it. That means I'm going in the right direction. And if you like this stuff, if you've already signed up, there's lots more coming. There's just so much more that I'm working on that I think that people are really going to like. It's really different kinds of teaching and deeper dives into this kind of material. So yeah, it's more stuff's coming, so just stay tuned. Anyway, they go on to say, "Now I'm working on passing the CAP exam, which I failed twice. Which one of your courses would you recommend I buy to help me pass the exam? Secondly, I would like would you kindly do me a favor and look at my resume?" Okay, yep. And I've already responded to you. So he's sending me his resume out. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at it. Thank you. First of all, sir, thank you. If you see this message, thank you for buying the course. I really appreciate it. It really supports me so I can continue to do stuff like this. I can continue to deep dive into these and make other courses. But to answer your question, you're about to take the CAP again. What courses do I currently have that will help you out? I'm actually working on a course right now that deep dives into the ISC2 CAP. Now, I've had the CAP from way back, like when it first came out. I've had it for quite a while, and I've been doing this work for some time. I know a lot about it, and I can tell you that, first of all, don't give up. That's good that you keep taking it. That's really good. Don't ever give up. Don't ever confuse the course, the certification that you take with actual experience or actual work. That doesn't mean that you can't do the job. To be honest with you, all the certifications I've taken, including the CISSP, a lot of times it's very different from the actual real world, and it's not an indictment on your skills as a professional. It's very academic in the book, and they use a lot of terms that nobody really uses in the field, to be honest with you. And passing the test doesn't necessarily reflect your skill set. I just want to put that out there. And I personally have failed a couple of certifications myself. When you're a go-getter and you just go out there and you go for it, failure is par for the course. Like you only fail if you quit, really. You know what I mean? Don't stop. And also, you got to fail forward. You got to keep getting up and keep going. And these certifications is kind of like I see it as kind of a check mark. If anything, it helps you to focus your mind on one domain to know what the common body of knowledge is for that particular genre of cybersecurity or IT or whatever, right? So that's the good thing about certifications. But the bad thing is organizations lean pretty heavily on them. And to be perfectly honest, a person with 1 million certifications, the top 2 people who trained me, just to kind of put this all in context, the top 2 people who trained me when I first started IT were brilliant. Like, just absolutely, they were like the Mozart of IT. One guy was really good at Unix. Like, it was like he was born with the C prompt. Like, it was in his head. Like, when he came out of the womb, he instantly knew how to do Unix. The guy was just brilliant at it. And I talk to him every now and then to this day. He was one of my first mentors. And then the other guy was super brilliant. And if you're watching this, Rob Rodriguez, you are a mentor to me. Like, I studied what you do and how you think and everything. But the thing that these 2 people had in common was that they didn't have at the time that I met them, they didn't have a lot of certifications, and they didn't have any kind of degrees. I mean, I'm being completely serious. When I met them, I'm sure by now they have master's degrees and all kinds of certifications or anything. These guys had no degrees or certifications, and they were the most brilliant people in every meeting. And what I'm trying to say is, a certification doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So I met people with double E degrees, 2 or 3 double E degrees, and a PhD and several certifications, and they can't hold a flame to people who are just freshly out of high school, because this high school guy is brilliant. So you can't confuse the certifications with the actual skill set and the actual talent, so don't think just because you fail these certifications that and I'm so glad that you're still going. Okay, getting back on your question. So the question was, do I have anything right now to address this? And I can show you what I have, but the stuff I have is not focused on a certification as of right now. So let me show you what ones could potentially help you out if you are going for a CAP. So this one right here, this ISO, the risk management framework ISO, it focuses on the documentation piece of how to do it. It's not really necessarily for passing the ISC2 CAP, but it does address some of it. Like the very beginning of it talks about the federal laws and how that maps to the FIPS stuff, and then how that maps it to an organization. So you will see that kind of stuff on the test, but it mostly 95% of it is focused on how you actually write and interpret security controls, which is that stuff's not on the test. But that little 5% there, that will be on the test. Let me show you some other stuff here that is probably a better fit for you if you're taking the test. Information security foundations, this risk management framework ISO foundations, this one right here is probably more of what you want if you really just had to buy something and you're about to take the test. Start off with just, first of all, sign up for it. It's free to sign up, and then a solid 30 minutes worth of content here is for free, so you can figure out, okay, do I want to buy this? Is this what I want? But this one right here really it's probably 50% of what you'll see on the test, because it goes into the categorizing, the selection of security controls, the implementation of security controls, the authorization. That being said, it's not tailored for the test. It's really tailored for an information system security officer who has to do the work. So it's more practical. It's like, what do you do if you're in a meeting and they ask you this kind of question? What kinds of things do you want to do? What steps do you need to take to actually categorize it? Who categorizes the system, and how do they normally do it, and where's the ISO's role in categorization or selection or implementation of security controls? That's really the main focus. But that said, it's more in line with the with the CAP certification. And there's a few tests in there that would help out a little bit, but I would say it will get you 45 to 50% there with the certification. I'm working on one that's going to be really tailored to not only pass the test, and it'll have the kind of verbiage and the kind of mindset that you need to take the test, but it's also going to teach you what's the practical understanding of the risk management framework process. That way, when you actually get asked these obscure questions, you know the why behind what they're saying in the question, if that makes any sense. Because a lot of times you'll know you'll have an understanding of what's going on, but the way they word the questions sometimes is just very confusing. And I don't know why ISC2 does that, to be honest with you. They just use some of the jargon they use, I think, is a little bit, it's just, I don't know, it's not very helpful. You know what I mean? It's like, I felt like when I take the ISC2, the two tests I've taken, the CAP course and the CISSP, I felt like it was so broad that as to be useless. And I'm not trying to disrespect people with a CISSP. It's a hard certification. Yeah, you really got to know your stuff to pass it and stuff like that. But I just feel like the questioning was so broad that it's like you can't point to a CISSP and say, hey, what skills do you have? You don't know if they're a cryptographer. You don't know if they're a firewall guy. You don't know if they're like a jack of everything, which makes them a master of nothing kind of thing. And for the CAP, it does focus on the risk management framework, but it's the way they word it is so broad that I don't know, like none of the terminology that they use is something that I've used in agencies or departments or even in the civilian sector. Is like very obscure. It is talking about the FIPS 199 and FIPS 200, and it's talking about a risk management framework, which is NIST 837 and stuff like that. It does talk about those things, but just some of the questions are kind of nebulous. It's hard to explain. Which if I had a question here to show you, that wasn't violating the ethics of the test, I would like to dissect it and tell you, and you would see what I mean. It's very nebulous because they're trying to make it more of a comprehension type test rather than a knowledge-based test that you would get from a test like the CEH. Like this test right here, which is a more technical test, it's more like, hey, it's very specific. Like it's very, very specific. And I know like a lot of hacker and pen testers don't respect this test, but this is very marketable, by the way. The CEH is super marketable. But it's what I'm saying is the contrast between a test like this or CCNA, Cisco certification, is it's very specific. Like once you pass the test, Nmap. It's proven that you know the commands of Nmap. You know what tools to use. You have a list of items in your head of tools to use and kind of techniques hackers use, and you have some idea of what the employer who's going to hire you has an idea of what you know. But I can't say the same for CISSP.